meet a woman now who has a devastating story to tell. She was beaten so badly by her partner it left her with severe and permanent damage. And she says that victims of domestic violence are not getting the help they desperately need.
Abby Blake was so frightened by her ordeal that she went into hiding when Sebastian Swami was released earlier than expected.
How are you doing now physically, first of all?
I have to take each day as it comes. It's very difficult to sit for long times. It's very difficult to participate with my children in various activities, which I used to do a lot of. One of the major struggles that I have is I've lost my sensation in my fingertips. So not being able to touch my children or touch their skin, I have no feeling there. I'm unable to do some of the most basic things, chop vegetables, fruit. I slice my fingers.
How?
And as I said, just doing up their buttons I can't do, so my eldest son has to help. Just very small
Things that have been robbed, things that have been taken from you that you treasured.
Intimate and important things to share with your children, aren't they?
Yeah.
So now the person that did this to you has been released. What are your feelings about that?
I was very disappointed that he has been released so soon. I didn't anticipate that he would be released so soon. My eldest son was very afraid and upset and angry too. I just feel failed by the criminal justice system.
What advice were you given at the time of this ordeal from the justice system in terms of the sentence that he could face?
I was advised that time would be taken off his custodial because he'd spent time on remand, and because he'd come in with an early plea and he'd pled guilty, that would all be taken off. But I was never advised that there would be time taken off because he'd been on an electronic tag for 18 months by the end it was sentencing. And I hadn't been advised that that constitutes half a day. So each day he serves the tag is half a day off his custodial. So no one presented that to me. I just received a phone call in March, 10 weeks after he'd been sentenced, being informed that.
Lindsey, whatever the technicalities, it doesn't seem enough, does it, 6 months to most people for such devastating, life-changing injuries?
No, but it's not 6 months, of course, because he spent the time on remand and he's had this time with at large at home, but on tag, you have to have at least 12 hours out of having to stay at a particular address when you're on the tag. It's either 9 or 12 hours, which is regarded as quite a significant limit on your liberty. And that's why recently, in fairly recent times, it counts as half a day in custody. If you look at it from that point of view, the restriction on custody, then it all tots up to amounting to the 20 months that he had to serve.
The frustration, though, from the outside is that, of course, why should this tag time count at all? Because Abby lives with the result of this attack for the rest of her life and every single minute of every day.
Well, I mean, let's face it, no sentence is adequate to recompense Abby for what she's been through and what she's suffering now and what she'll suffer in the future. But we have a judicial system, we have guidelines for sentencing. We always have this argument. There is a bracket, and there was a bracket for the offence that he pleaded guilty to. The bracket was between 2.5 and 4 years, and he was given towards the 4 years end of that. I know the judge who sentenced him. He wasn't a light sentencer by any manner of means. So his sentence for what he pleaded guilty to and the plea that was accepted was absolutely spot on.
So who's let Abby down here then? Because clearly she was incredibly scared when she found out he was coming out way earlier than she thought.
Yeah. Well, originally he was charged with a more serious offence. And it got to the stage near trial where he pleaded to a lesser offence. And the prosecution are very much persuaded by avoiding the complainant, the victim, not having to face the perpetrator.
Because that was a concern for you. You didn't want to have to relive that, did you? Are you now concerned for your safety now that he's been released?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you fear something might happen?
You just never know. He was always so unpredictable, so you never really know. Whilst I have an indefinite restraining order, it's just a piece of paper, and it's just something now that I have to live with.
And what about the child you share? Does he want access?
He did want access, but I was awarded a no-contact order this February 2019, so he's not allowed any indirect or direct contact, which at least enables my child to move on for a few years or for the time being.
Saskia, I mean, you see cases like this tragically all the time. Abby's spoken so eloquently about the situation she's facing. From your perspective and from the other victims that you look after and you have met, what needs to change?
Well, first of all, we do believe that the Ministry of Justice needs to review sentencing in domestic abuse cases, but also there's very definitely some real gaps because victims aren't being given all of the potential implications of criminal justice decision-making. So when Abby was consulted, if she had have known at that time that the tag time would be taken from the custodial sentence, she may have actually preferred to go to court. The reality is she didn't get that opportunity because it wasn't fully explained to her. And also the very long time between an offence occurring and a court case taking place. Very regularly, perpetrators and their legal teams will delay and delay and delay, and the criminal justice system allows that to happen.
And that draws out the agony for you, Abby, when you're sitting there waiting just to get to court.
And also then presumably comes off the sentence.
Absolutely. And so, yes, liberty is shortened by the 9 or 12 hours per day, but the perpetrator is in their own home, physically able to go out for the other half of the day. It's really seems very unfair.
Doesn't seem just that, Lindsey, does it?
No, I quite sympathise. I don't think there's really any comparison between being home on tag and being in prison. I don't think you can compare.
So should there be reform?
Certainly there needs to be more explanation.
Yeah, that's apparent.
I think there should have been a clearer explanation for Abby so she could make informed decisions. But, of course, it wasn't her decision in the first place.
It's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you feel you want to do now?
I would like to be able to help in future other victims understand the bigger picture of what can happen when it comes to trial or their custodials or their sentencing. I'd also like to be able to make the public aware of this electronic tag time. My ex he wasn't in his home 12 hours. He actually went to work for 18 months. The thing that I would really like to see is that victims are made aware when the offender is released on bail. Certainly, we need a date, and when the offender is released from prison. I think that's absolutely imperative.
So you can protect yourself because you have to go into hiding.
Safeguard yourself, the children.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fascinating to talk to you. I wish you well with recovery, physically and mentally. And thanks very much for also your expert opinion too.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Saskia. Thank you, Lindsey.